Om Namo Bhagavate Ramakrishnaya. Om. Salutations to Bhagavan Ramakrishna. Mantra Yoga, the 10th class of the series. And we've titled it the 80-20 rule in Japa and meditation. If you study our lives, we can see that we've done a good deal and yet wasted also much of our time and our lives. We kind of mindlessly watch maybe movies, listlessly move around. Sometimes we are just clueless. It's just like 80% of our activities are not productive. Just 20%. Now, I don't mean to say that it's set in stone, okay? And this is 80. It's more or less, it depends on individuals also. Now, when we are in that 20%, that we feel driven, energized, we've got a goal, we've got something to do. And after that, a little kind of, we take it easy. The same rule applies also in Japa and Dhyana, meditation and Japa. If you just for a couple of minutes close our eyes and think of God, you see the amount of time we really spend on thinking of God or the Atman and useless thoughts are. Sometimes it's 50-50, sometimes it's 60-50, sometimes. But given a regular habit, you sit down for meditation and then you say, let's meditate for 1 hour. Really? We know what it is. You are meditating for 15 minutes. But that does not mean, okay, I take it easy and this is the rule. This is the rule of all the world. You know, this 80-20 is the Pareto principle. It was first kind of studied by Alfredo Pareto. He was the Italian economist. And I'll quote, for many events, in fact, roughly 80% of effects come from 20% of the causes. He discovered this pattern in studying wealth distribution. And, everywhere, how you accumulate wealth, how businesses are run, in relationships, in everything, these things were kind of holding its own. There have been detractors, yes, but then the general consensus is that we find, he says, for instance, in any retail organization, this principle states that 80% of the sales will be accounted for by 20% of its customers. So this essentially is saying if we spend a short amount of time on what is really important, this will yield greater results. So you've got to focus on the 20%. Do it really well, perfectly. And then the effects roll down. It's controversial, but we're not going to discuss just the Pareto principle. That's okay. We'll see how it affects spiritual life. Now, if any person who see, okay, this 80-20, because this has been a kind of a stick also to use on society. Hey, you are just useless. We are the ones who are working. So it has its positive studies as well as negative. But then any serious person can say, hey, that is a real potential there. Suppose I want to just be 21%, 22, 23, 24. Yes. There's a whole world there for improvement. What happens is, I had friends also, in me also. There was a time when I said, you've got to be intense and be like 100% of the time up at doing. But the body and mind has its limitations. But you notice the time that you spent really fruitfully has been the most challenging time, and on retrospect, it has been the happiest time. It's like climbing uphill, and then, okay, but then you see, oh, there's a long way to go. You come downhill. You take it easy, and again you climb up. Each person's karma is different. So that person, it will be determined how much hills that person can climb and conquer, etc. One time Swami Vivekananda was in this intense mode of mind, and even his brother disciples, who were kind of great souls, they were stunned seeing his intensity of his spiritual disciplines. And they told Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Ramakrishna is smiling, saying, yeah. What do you see him doing this entire day? I went through it for 12 years. He did not sleep for 6 years. Imagine if you don't sleep for a couple of nights, see what happens. That was the intensity that he... And what happens is, like all karma, it lifts you and it helps the world. At times, you are fired into intense activity like meditation and Japa, all these things, to do good to the world, not only to you. So in the life of Sri Ramakrishna and even the Holy Mother and all, what a tremendous life they had. So intense it was. Compared to them, our life is quite leisurely. We work and then in spurts. And after that sporadic activity, the body and the mind. So like I said, I had friends who said, I'm going to practice 18 hours a day meditation. And they used to do that for months, and then, like I said, the body and the mind itself has limitations. And then slowly they come back to where they actually started, the starting line. So we need to do it intelligently, slowly. There's tremendous room for improvement. Like we are sitting and meditating, if you can see that if you pay attention to what we are doing, that itself will dilate that 20% of what you're doing. Because a lot of people saying, oh, it's been years that I've been practicing spiritual disciplines, and nothing seems to be happening. Well, something is happening, because whatever that 20% of that we do is influencing the rest of our 80% of our spiritual life. There is an undercurrent of spirituality that's there. There is no doubt about it. The very fact that you are here and saying nothing is happening, that intensity is growing. So it's not a waste. The 80% is not a waste. This is the nature of the world. Because when sattva arises, and then the quality of sattva, and then rajas, and then tamas also comes and takes over, you need to take rest. Otherwise, you will not be able to put in that 20% energy that you have there. But then you know what happens here, that rest that starts dilating more and more and more and more. To keep you fired, you'll have to do it very, very slowly. Swami Vivekananda says, proper attention to the finishing, strengthening of the means is what we need. With the means all right, the end must come. We forget that it is the cause that produces the effect. The effect cannot come by itself. So he says our great defect in life is that we are so drawn to the ideal. The goal is so much enchanting, so much alluring, so much bigger on our mental horizon, that we miss out the details, the steps that we need to take. Now, take for instance, okay, 20% here and 80%. Now, in this 20% also, it can be, again, that same rule can be applied. And further and further and further, you can break it down. So, real effort is just a minuscule portion of what you are capable of. We are capable of 100%. There's no doubt. Swamiji says, this is the secret of life, this intensity. We also read in this in the Bhagavad Gita, that we have to work constantly with all our power to put our whole mind in work, whatever it be. So whatever we are doing, we have to put our entire mind into it, our entire soul. It's like activity is something external to us. We are doing something, okay. So this, you got to motivate yourself that your activity is you. Your thoughts are you. So similarly, it's a part of you. It's an expression of you. And ultimately, people will not judge you on what you think or say also, but on what you do. This is where everything boils down to. Now, as I said, we are meditating, and in this hour of meditation, it's a holy hour, the mind at times drifts away. And then we again pull ourselves back. And again it drifts away. And again we pull ourselves back. Why does it happen? This is the nature of the mind. You can't help it. Oh yeah, I mean, you can, of course. So the mind collects at a point, like all forces in nature, it collects. And then it holds itself for a while, and then again breaks and disperses. Everything in nature follows this law. This is the rule. Things accumulate in once and then breaks. It happens with name and fame and money and everything. Things converge to you and then slowly disperse. So this is what is called in Sanskrit pravritti and nivritti, the circling outwards and the circling inwards. These are the forces of nature constantly functioning on our bodies and minds also, in the external world also. Everywhere there's a force and there's a counter force. And if you can make this the circling inwards more and more, you can hold it in check. And this is where you develop spiritual strength. And this is where the use of a mantra becomes extremely important. For those who just do like yogic meditation or something like that, they cannot be doing meditation when they're driving or something like that. You keep a remembrance. I remember there was an incident I was told, Swami Prabhavananda, he was driving, he used to drive from, I think it was from Santa Barbara or Trabuco to Hollywood. And he lost his brakes and now there was someone else in the car and the car is speeding. What? Instead of trying to maneuver it somehow, do something, he just leaves the steering wheel. He lifts his legs up and sits down in a yogic pose. And miraculously, the car kind of slowed down, hit a tree, slowed down, and the guy is okay. The idea is when you are, just before dying, you've got to prepare yourself. Like, like you take off all the energies up to your heart, and then the prana, and then lift it up again to the center of your eyebrows, and then say, Om, and then give up your body. That's the way to give up bodies. Go in style. So he wanted to go in style. So, but if you take the disciplines of japa, you can keep on it all the time. So there's a, there's a book on grammar, Sanskrit grammar, of course. There are aphorisms of Patanjali. He systematized the entire structure of Sanskrit. And it is so, he systematized, okay, anyway. But there's an equally impressive commentary on these Panini Sutras, they're called. Panini was a professor there in one of these old universities. That was at the time of, before time of Christ also. So he wrote that. And he says, my students, that is, not this Patanjali, maybe who knows, it might be that he's the same Patanjali who wrote, who formulated the Yoga Sutras. See, my students are students for 24 hours. Oh, they have to eat and sleep. Oh, even when they are sleeping and eating, they will dream about it. And when they're eating, they will think about these. So there is always an undercurrent. So japa, for this very reason, has become the most effective spiritual disciplines to cover 100% of your time. Yes, you do 20% intensely, but the rest of the day also you are spending it in. Because as you repeat it consciously, whatever you do consciously becomes subconscious. Oh yeah, what we are seeing each other here, and we already gone in the past. It's memory. But it's a continuous, after that it'll go. So the present moment is just nothing but the past. The future also. What? So we are seeing things in the past, as it were. What we are is nothing but memories. So anything done consciously will become in the past, memory. And that keeps you going over. The power of the mantra is something that has been spoken of by sages and saints. There's an inherent power within that mantra. It is a Shakti mantra. The more, and the example given is, it's like you rub sandalwood. The more you rub, the more fragrance emerges out. The more you keep on doing your japa, the more the power is released. But most of these, some of the mantras are sattvic mantras. Light and joy and knowledge, etc. Luminous. There are these mantras which are rajasic mantras. And there are some mantras which are tamasic mantras. So most mantras for spiritual advancement fall in the category of sattva. Like people with worldly powers and black magicians and this and that, and some of the mantras, if you read, oh my God, you can put a spell on someone, you can kill someone, you can do all these kind of crazy things. These are all these tamasic mantras. Yes, because the world is not just good. The world is a mixture of everything. So this is why the entire day, subconsciously, you are with the mantra. The next reason is how this is embedded within us is no thought arises singly in a vacuum. There's nothing in this universe, including you, me, and everything, is a result of a long past, a long network. Like Swami Vivekananda quoting the English poet, trailing clouds of glory we come. And he adds, trailing also black clouds we come. So we have got a long burden. Old thoughts, old actions have fashioned us today. What we are is a result of all what we have done, and that what we have done and said and thought is like a network branching out. Like these fungi, they go out everywhere. They've conquered everything below the ground. You don't see it. So this is the vastness. So when we are practicing meditation, sometimes what happens is your mind is still and poised and going, and then suddenly it slips and goes down in one of the old networks. Then you got to again extricate yourself. So when I said that things focus in one point and then again disperse, that dispersal also has a law, that those old networks. Now suppose we lay a new set of networks with spiritual practices. That is what we would like. So every time you're repeating and thinking of God and doing the spiritual disciplines and all, what you're doing is laying out a new network so that the mind, even if it slips from its poised state, it will run down into those old networks and it'll come back again. This is one of the reasons why they say spiritual life is not just, okay, this is morning and evening is meditation. No, it is those thoughts. So that mantras are laying down network. And then you're coming down and listening to the Vespers and you're listening to some devotional music or you're praying. All these things are like a buffer zone. The old networks will, with the power of the mantra, become disabled. Yes. So it is known that the power of the mantra and repetition nullifies old karma. So things which are supposed to come to you in a kind of in a terrible way, it just passes by. Nothing happens to you. So you are in a way again disabling. So the very thing that was negative now has become positive to you. That dispersal of the mind and it's going down the old networks, that itself is now helping you. Of course, the new network, the old networks are slowly getting neutralized. You must understand the old networks are there. Yeah, they will be. The mantra also sometimes brings out thoughts which even you are shocked with. How can I think like this? How can I be like? And yes. So sometimes dark thoughts come out. You don't have to worry about that. So they let them come. They are coming to be disabled. Now, looking at this 2080, oh my God, look at this. And you'll say, but Swamiji, just to put a kind of a dampener on this, he says, but not really truly in the sense of dampener. He analyzes. He's saying, 50% of our life is mere lethargy, ennui. What is ennui? The state of dissatisfaction, listlessness, unfocused, bored. The rest, so 50% ennui, 40% is pain. God. Only 10% happiness. And then he adds, just to give us a little more. And this is for the exceptionally fortunate. Oh God. So let me continue. We are oft times mixing up the state of ennui with pleasure. It is rather a negative state, whilst both pleasure and pain are nearer positive, though not positive. So pleasure and pain, they are essential. Don't run away. Don't try to avoid it. It'll come. But don't seek it. You don't seek pleasure, you don't seek pain. If it comes, it comes. It's your karma. What you have to tackle is ennui, which is mistakenly stated to be a pleasurable thing. And so he's saying these are feelings, but it awakens the willing part in you. It's always like that. So you're moved to action. Swamiji gives an example. He's saying, there's the barking of a dog. To the person at home, it's either a thief or a dear friend coming. So the barking has no relationship to what is the outcome. Pleasure and pain. It gives a different arousal of the will for the person. So this is what, so this pleasure and pain, this happiness and all, they are feelings, but they should be able to arouse in you the willing. This willing is done through the repetition of the mantra. So he says, pleasure and pain are feeling, not willing. They are only processes which convey to the mind the motives for action. So this, yeah, but Swamiji is saying 50%, yeah, we are mistaking this, the majority of our life, for, oh, we are fine, and no. So if we can awaken this will, and what awakens the will? See, the will is nothing but your intellect, the buddhi. And the buddhi has to become awakened and sharp. And that is the willpower. It pushes you. The mantra will keep on impelling this will. So it's none of these states. You are creating ideal conditions for the will to be awakened. Because every time you're putting an effort into paying attention perfectly while you're doing a meditation, that is strengthening of the will. And then along with that will, the power of that mantra is now within it. And it keeps on getting better and better and better. At one point of time, you will see obstacles just disappearing even before you even encounter them. Like there's something that's clearing your path. So that the power of the mantra is not only confined to you, your body, but you exude the mantra. Yes. And this is where, well, people like Sri Ramakrishna and all these guys, they exuded the power of the mantra. The power of the mantra is the power of God. So you feel. And this also awakens other souls. So not only you are doing good to yourself, but you are doing good to also spiritually good to the world. So from this 20%, yeah, do it perfectly, but keep on. You have plenty of room to improve. Do it slowly. 21, 22, 23, 24. Yeah. I remember when I was young, I said, I'm going to do 50,000 Japa counter, and I'm not going to get up. I kept on and on and on. And after some, I'm seeing my attention is going to how much have I counted? 15,000, 20,000, and I'm struggling. And I said, no, that is not going to go. So it has to be done gradually. Yeah, I've seen people who, from sun up to sundown, they sit down in one place and they meditate and do japa. Yeah. And they can do it for months and months and months. And then they take a break, because they cannot do it continuously. Like I said, the body itself will rebel and the mind itself will rebel. It's not yet ready. So to get it conditioned slowly, that will has to be developed. And then you can find that 80% of yours, which you thought, oh, has become 100%. That 20 has become the 100%. This is the very best mode, mantra of carrying over that 20%. Even if you can hit 50%, I will say, wow, you're a successful person. Of course. And when you go into 50 and then you're saying you push and push and push and push. What happens is the mantra starts pushing you then. Do it. Keep on. And once the mind has taken over it, then there's no more danger. It will save you from everything. Like like crossing a street and the car, it'll stop you from crossing. You don't have to look at that signs and walk sign and all. It will just, any dangers, anything that happens, it's saving you. The mantra starts saving you from everything. All the crazy things happen to you, somehow you will become insulated. Like you're walking in a kind of a halo of a mantra. This is the power of the mantra. 20, so you keep on pushing. We have not yet understood the power of the mantra because we have just 20%. Pareto, okay, that's okay. And it applies to many things, but in spiritual life also. But if you can push, the very idea of spiritual life is you are going against the grain of things. You don't go along with that. I'll go with the crowd. You're going against the grain. And as you're going against the grain, power will develop. As you keep on cresting those hills, you struggle and you conquer. You take a breather, come down a little, I can crest another hill. This is like Swami Vivekananda says, I had mentioned it. He and another old monk were traversing the Himalayas. And as they crested a hill, they see the panorama of hills and they have got to cross all of them. The old monk says, not me, my chest will burst. I'm not going to. Swami Vivekananda said, look behind you. And he looked, there's another panorama of hills that they had crossed over. He's saying, don't look here. Look down, take each step, deliberate, then slowly. And like you have conquered those hills, you will conquer these hills. So this is how we start. Just step by improvement will be gradual. And then you can see there's whether you call it grace of God, your spiritual practice itself will generate that grace. The spiritual practice is with the mantra. The very fact that Sri Ramakrishna says that even to practice spiritual disciplines, you must have grace. So there you're practicing spiritual, there's a descent of grace, and now you're going to start pushing and pushing. So Pareto did not say there's an element of grace also, but there is something. So as you keep on practicing, pushing, you're lifted up and you're pulled. Yeah, there are number of stories in the lives of saints everywhere where their little effort has lifted them and given them great rewards. This happens because of grace. So along with this 80-20, if you add grace, yeah, you got it done. Like in the Bhagavad Gita also is saying, out of thousands, few try to know me. And out of those thousands who know me, few really know me in truth. Yes. And this is the law of nature also. Like it's not just Pareto and this and that. Like Christ also says, many are called but few are chosen. It's there. So what do you do about it? Yeah, keep on, don't worry. Stand in queue, stand in the queue. So there is hope for everybody. We study our life, study your spiritual practices, then you'll see that where there is a room for improvement, do it there. Do it with attention, do it with love and faith, and you'll see how that 20% is getting dilated, also because of grace. And then you become a new person. There's no doubt about it. You will see you're pushing back on physical and mental limitations also. There's a great kind of sense of purpose, of power that rises within you. This is called that, Swami Vivekananda says, you can say hurrah and stand before a cannon, and the cannon goes off and you also go off. There's there's a bravery in that, The grenade falls and somebody jumps on the grenade. That is one type of courage. But this courage is nothing in front of spiritual courage. Oh, you will find you need more courage than jumping over a hand grenade. But then what happens once you do that spiritual heroism, the spiritual dynamism takes over. And you can say, you have the power now to shake the world. Spiritually, of course. Don't do it like that. Already too much of shaking going on. This is what happens when you start breaking that 80-20 rule. You have to break it. Okay, no problem. Whole world and everything runs on you. No. So break that rule and become free. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu. Questions? Can you please elaborate on envy, lethargy? Oh, it's not envy, ennui, ENNUI. Listlessness, dissatisfaction, and then boredom, etc. So it's not envy, sorry. You said that obstacles are lessened as Japa increases. If so, then would it not mean that horoscope predictions will start going wrong? Oh yeah. All horoscope predictions will go wrong. You are in charge of your own life. Yes, not only that. There's a saying in India, okay, they study your palms and all. Oh, there are people who say, when you start exercising your will, you change the lines on your palm. You change your destiny. Nothing is set in stone. Nothing. So your horoscope predictions will go wrong, but you will find there's a higher level of horoscope readings, a higher meta, there you will be. So it is there in our own hands. So it says your destiny is in your own hands, they say. Everything will go wrong. So you know why? Because I'll tell you, there was one monk whose horoscope was taken to an astrologer. And the astrologer got so annoyed. You are bringing me a horoscope of a person who's dead. Saying, no, he's alive, he's there. He's in Jairambati. And he was so furious. Get out. And he was perplexed. He comes and tells Holy Mother, Mother, what happened? Are you saying? And he says, he was destined to die that, but he became a monk then. And all these things, his destiny is now my hands. So this is So spiritual power is the greatest power than any planets and suns and moons and this and that. So this is what it is. Okay. Okay. Just for a few announcements. Tomorrow morning we have a Karma Yoga at 10. We'll start with a small talk on Karma Yoga, and then we have to ready ourselves for the next day, Holy Mother's Puja at 11. So we will have a little rearranging the furniture and decorations. And we've got to decorate for Christmas also. So the puja setup is there for tomorrow. And Sharda Devi's puja on Sunday. Remember, there's just street parking. So we'll have problems. We don't have that parking lot of that St. Patrick's Church. So afterwards, prasad will be served. So there will be a worship, and there will be singing, songs, and then there will be a small talk also to complete. And then food. It's potluck. So those who have not yet signed up for the food preparations, please do so. Okay. And yeah, so the Christmas, we celebrate Christmas Eve, 24th, because that's a very important day for us. It was, our order in a way was established on the 24th December and 24th midnight. So we celebrate Christmas Eve, 6 p.m. with carols and worship, etc. So even Christ must have not thought about him being worshipped in the traditional style. But of course, there's a saying that he had gone to India and all. So he'll be comfortable with it. No problem. And besides, being an incarnation, you can be comfortable with anything. 1st of January, the day when Sri Ramakrishna becomes a wish-fulfilling tree. Spiritual wishes, of course. So we celebrated as a whole day of vigil in the shrine, and at 6 o'clock we end this with the talk, etc. That's much for today. Om, peace, peace, peace. The in-person questions can be taken.